Let us just bring on our guest, Matt Fradd. Matt Fradd, F-R-A-D-D. Matt Fradd speaks to tens of thousands of people every year. He's the best-selling author of several books, including Does God Exist? A Socratic Dialogue on the Five Ways of Thomas Aquinas, and The Porn Myth, Exposing the Reality Behind the Fantasy of Pornography. His podcast, Pints with Aquinas, which sounds really like a pleasant afternoon, I have to say. Pints with Aquinas receives hundreds of thousands of downloads every month, and he has a course, Strive, a 21-day detox from porn. Matt, it's nice to meet you. Thanks for coming on.
G'day, Andrew. I'm a big fan. It's lovely to be on your show.
Oh, well, thanks very much. I want to read you a very short paragraph from an Atlantic article. There's a big Atlantic piece by Kate Julian about why people aren't having sex anymore, why young people aren't having sex. And she says, there's scant evidence of an epidemic of erectile dysfunction among young men, and no researcher I spoke with had seen compelling evidence that porn is addictive. As the authors of a recent review of porn research note, the notion of problematic pornography use remains contentious in both academic and popular literature. Is that true or false?
No, it's bloody false. Right now, there are currently 41 neuroscience-based studies on porn users, and every one of them supports the addiction model. There are two studies that claim to show that pornography is not addictive by Nicole Prouse, but they have been seriously questioned by some of the world's top neuroscientists. And when it comes to erectile dysfunction, this isn't a scare tactic, thrown out by Christians and other people who hate sex. Right? These are some of the top urologists, like Dr. Abraham Morgenthaler, who's the clinical urologist at Harvard Medical School. Norman Doidge, who wrote the book The Brain That Changes Itself, said we shouldn't call it erectile dysfunction. We should call it porn-induced impotency, since the problem isn't below the belt, it's between the ears. And just, I think everyone's common experience, if you're somebody who consumes pornography with any regularity, is your life, a lot better? Your relationships a lot more fulfilled? I think more and more people are saying, no, they're not. And they're choosing to do away with porn for those reasons.
Is porn, this explosion of pornography, is it just because of technology? Is it just because it's there? I mean, there was always pornography, but now it's right there at a click of a button. Or is it indicative of a greater disorder in our sexual lives and our sexual thinking?
Well, I think it's important to point out, right, that sex is good. Sexual desire, Sexual desire is good. If you don't experience sexual desire, that's not a sign of holiness, but that you might be dead, right? So all of these are good things. And it's precisely because they're good that when they become twisted, they become really ugly. You can't make something ugly that is already ugly. You can't make trash ugly, but you can make sex ugly precisely because it's beautiful. And I think so. We've always had an interest in sex and ought to, but with the advent of the internet, porn has become immediately anonymous, accessible, and affordable. And because of those three A's, porn use has skyrocketed, and now most people are being exposed to pornography, both young boys and girls, at around the age of 8 to 12.
Is there, I know a lot of feminists complain that that porn basically, you start, because it is an addiction, you start with simple porn and you wind up looking at the most violent and disgusting things that actually change the way you relate to women and what you expect a woman to be like when you're actually with a real live woman. Is that fair complaint?
Yes, it's very fair. One of the key neurotransmitters in the pleasure reward centers of the brain is called dopamine. And neuroscientists have discovered that when one consumes pornography with any regularity, dopamine begins to atrophy, and the reward center in the brain is in a state of dopamine craving. So it's as if you've reset the pleasure thermostat. And now, in order to boost it again, you need more porn and more deviant forms of porn just to feel normal. So, I mean, when you think about it, no one wakes up at the age of 25 having never seen porn and thinks, I want to watch insert weird fetish here. Rather, we spiral into it. We begin with the quote-unquote vanilla porn, and after a while it doesn't cut it anymore, and we have to keep pushing the envelope to feel the same level of excitement.
That really is scary. That's a scary idea. And what about the complaint? And I've heard this from women who are not particularly feminist, that men expect of them behaviors and reactions that simply are not in the human repertoire, that are not the way people normally behave when they're in bed together.
Right. Pornography changes what's called our sexual template. So if people begin viewing pornography at an early age and start spiraling into all sorts of weird fetishes, they might believe that they've just been sort of programmed in a certain way to say prefer certain types of violent sex, or to prefer animals to people, or even to prefer whatever. But in actuality, studies have shown that as they get off of porn, their sexual template goes back to normal. But I think that's fair to say that when you consume pornography, I mean, this is why porn leads, for some people, to erectile dysfunction. I'm a Christian, but I run a podcast with an atheist. His name's Noah Church, which is a really ironic name for an atheist, actually. And the reason he quit porn was because he tried to have sex with his girlfriend and his penis didn't work. I mean, that's going to freak you out.
Yeah, that's a bad day. Yeah, no question.
That's a bad day. So he went online and he researched, and he literally found tens of thousands of other young men, and they're all experiencing the same problem. And even things like Viagra and Cialis weren't working. And they realized that it had to do with porn. And after dropping the porn, they found that sexual function came back.
Wow. All right, so let's talk about this, because I know guys who are addicted to porn. It's a hard addiction to break. Yeah. You offer a program for this. What is the solution for the individual?
Yeah. So for the last 8 years, I've been traveling the country and speaking almost exclusively on porn. I joke that my mum is super proud of me. And this is the first time I've kind of been able to put all of the wisdom I've learned into one 21-day course. We're literally putting hundreds of thousands of dollars into this course. It's very high production value. And it's basically my way of coming alongside these men and walking them step by step, giving them the information and resources that they need to achieve long-lasting sobriety. The first course will launch in 5 days from now. We're going to have tens of thousands of people from around the world joining. And it's not an isolated experience. It's something that you go through with men. You watch a 3 to 5 minute video every day. There's a challenge that you're asked to complete. You're asked to communicate in the forum. And then at the end of the 21 days, we put you into triad video small groups so you can continue this journey with accountability partners. And again, the whole point of this is not to shame anyone. It's not to make anyone feel bad. It's just about coming alongside people and saying, if you want a more beautiful life, if you feel that pornography is getting in the way of your most cherished relationships, you know, we're not here to judge you or shame you. We're just here to say there's a way out and you're not alone.
So now you have a podcast called Pints with Aquinas, which like I said, I think I'm going to be daydreaming about that for the rest of having pints with Aquinas. what could be more fun than having pints? But right. So you're obviously a religious person, but this is not a religious course.
Correct.
Is there, you know, in AA, they say you have to have a higher power. Can you break the porn addiction without having a higher power?
I think so, because I know several people who are self-declared atheists who have been free of pornography for years. That said, yes, I am a Christian, and so I bring a sort of Christian anthropology to the table in this course. Like, I actually think that it's not a cliche or a hallmark line to say we've been created by love, to love, and for love, right? That we have love as our origin, vocation, and destiny, and if we don't get love right, we won't get bloody life right. And so for that reason, I don't apologize for being Christian. But that said, any man of goodwill will, I think, get a lot out of this course, because we don't base the course on religious dogma or biblical texts. We kind of base it on, I think, common sense, science, and logic, while certainly appealing to the beauty of God and the beauty of a relationship one can have with God. But it's not heavy-handed, and I don't think anyone will be put out by it. Well,
let's step back for a minute. Those are the individual treatments. If you step back and look at the culture in general, is there a way? I mean, here in the U.S., we cherish our First Amendment. I don't want to see speech censored at all. Is there a way? Is there something that the society can do, basically, to help people or to prevent some of this?
Well, interestingly enough, pornography isn't protected under the First Amendment. It is speech. It's just not protected speech. So it's sort of like slander. You can slander me, and then I can sue you. That said, I understand where people are coming from, where the last thing they want is for government to step in and regulate something, even something they don't agree with. But I think we should point out there is a difference between, say, censorship and regulation. So right now, I think most decent people would say a child shouldn't be able to walk into a gas station, buy and consume pornography. Like we should not allow that. Well, why think that what happens offline is less real than what happens online? It's not. I mean, the fact is, our children can try and go and see 50 Shades of Stupid in the movie theater, be denied, and then while turning away could look up something 500 times as bad. And I think that's unacceptable. And I think we're seeing the destruction all around us. And so I think that there's something we should look into and develop here. There's a great group called the National Center on Sexual Exploitation up in DC who are actually doing work, putting pressure on companies to make sure that they are making it more difficult for children to be exposed to pornography.
Really interesting. Matt, where can people find you? Where do they go to get you?
Yeah, well, strive21.com. If they want to check out the course, strive21.com. So, yeah, cheers.
All right. Matt, it's really good talking to you. I hope you'll come back and talk again. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Andrew.